Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Future Faces Chamber of Commerce webinar this afternoon. Today, we're joined by Nathan Dennis from Legacy, who is a consultant trainer that specializes in BAME stakeholder engagement strategies. And today, we're going to be talking about navigating the terrain of race and diversity. As you know, it's Black History Month, and it started today. So it's a great way for us to sort of learn more about Black History Month, learn about race and diversity. So Nathan's going to be talking about that. But before I hand over to Nathan, just a few updates from Future Faces. We're going to be beginning our Future Faces AGM process. So this means that for those of you who'd like to apply to be a member of our committee, we will be opening applications for that. So anyone who feels they want to give more to the organisation, they want to be a part of Future Faces, and they want to support by being on the committee, having taking part in decisions that are made in terms of what we do at Future Faces, how we reach out to our audiences, the kind of content we deliver. So it's a great opportunity for anyone who wants to be a part of that. I myself am a committee member. It's great to be able to work with the wider team on the committee and, you know, try and make sure that Future Faces is delivering for our members. So again, that will be opening very soon, so please do keep an eye. And yeah, please come on, join our events, and anything else that, you know, if you've got any feedback, if you want us to deliver anything specific, please feel free to drop an email through to Anna or Vanessa, who manage Future Faces. Also, throughout the webinar, if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask the questions throughout the webinar. And once Nathan is done with his presentation, there will be an opportunity for question and answers. So if you would like to ask any questions, please do send them across, and Nathan will answer them at the end of his session. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Nathan. Nathan, thank you for joining us.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Good afternoon, everybody who's here. I know we're on webinar mode. I prefer the other mode so we can all be interactive. My name is Nathan Dennis. But what I want to do just to make sure that everyone is listening and engaged, just use the chat function and just say afternoon. Let's just greet each other who's on this webinar and just use it, type in the chat, good afternoon. So we're going to take you through at a presentation really to give you a taster of some of our thoughts around navigating the terrain of race and diversity. So yeah, let's get those, come on, yeah, get in, let's get the chats in. We want some energy. I know we're online. If it was together and it was in the room, I'll be getting you up on your feet and doing some icebreakers, but I can't do that because we're online, unfortunately. But you know what? It's better safe than sorry. So let's get into the presentation. Yeah, I can see all the chats coming in. Thank you very much. Awesome. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Oh, what a day. What a time that we're living in. This year has been unprecedented. Who would have thought we would have been in this pandemic, COVID-19, and then in the midst of the pandemic, we had this kind of re-emergence and re-explosion of the hashtag Black Lives Matters movement. And this afternoon, I'm going to really just share with you some of my thoughts really around how we can navigate the terrain of race and diversity, because I know for some it's like eggshells and everyone wants to be politically correct and make sure they don't say the wrong thing or cause any offense. But I'm just going to share you some thoughts. Just please note though that as I go through the presentation, in an ideal training delivery of this, there will be pause points where we could have discussion, but because of the time, we won't be able to do that. But at the end, we do have time for question and answer. So please have your notepads ready, just in case you have questions that you want to ask me. So what's interesting, my background is actually youth and community engagement work. And it was through that process of doing a lot of youth and community engagement work, specifically with African Caribbean communities. We was getting a lot of requests from companies to see how they could more effectively engage with Black and ethnic minority communities. I used to use the word, and I'm trying to move away from it, BAME. And the reason why I'm moving away from the word BAME is because when organizations talk about BAME, it sometimes negates the specific conversations that we need to have around Black people, African and Caribbean people. So I'm trying to be more specific, even in the language I'm using. And please, for those who are listening, please be aware of that. I'll give you a quick scenario. Speaking to a client last week, and they was telling us that their workplace is 95% white, and the kind of social economical backgrounds of everyone are kind of upper middle class. But they said, oh, we got 5% BAME. We employ 5% BAME. So I was like, okay, what's your BAME breakdown then? And they was like, oh, that 5% is Sikh, Asian. And I said, okay, so do you employ any Black people? And it was like, oh, no. And this is what I mean about BAME. BAME, we have to be very specific. So I'm trying to move away from the title BAME to make it very specific and clear about who we're talking about. So I'll give you a bit about Legacy Consultants. So this is me, Nathan Dennis. I'm the founder with my wife of Legacy Consultants, which is a consultancy that specializes in training and consultancy advice around helping companies more effectively engage with Black and ethnic minority communities. For those who love social media, I love social media. I think it's a great way to connect. Please, if you're on LinkedIn, follow me at Nathan Dennis. If you use Twitter, please use my personal Twitter to just say hello or just keep up to date with what we're doing. Our business Twitter is Legacy Impact UK, and our charity that we run, First Class Foundation, is right there for you to see. So we've been doing quite a bit of training behind the scenes through Legacy Consultants. Formerly, most people know us as First Class Legacy, but we've recently gone through a kind of transition where we've separated our charity work and created a specific offer around our training and consultancy. Some of the images you can see here is for a training day that we did for over 200 staff who wanted to look at how they could engage with young people, specifically around Black and ethnic minority communities, around topics around like county lines, exploitation, and criminal justice. So we do lots of stuff. We design training events, we deliver training. There's a lot of stuff that we've been doing. So for today's presentation, what to expect is I'm going to give you a taster of our theory of change. We're going to explore hashtag Black Lives Matter from our perspective. We're going to explore the psychological impact, the history. I'm going to share some oh my God moments. And then I'm going to share very briefly some of our solutions and some of our thinking. But because it's Black History Month, I'm going to do as well, add a little bit. We're just going to do an honor call of some people who I think just need to be appreciated as it's Black History Month. When I originally was going to do this presentation, it wasn't actually due for Black History Month, so I adapted it slightly just to give some honor to some heroes and sheroes from the Black community. So our theory of change. So approximately 2 years ago, we had an independent evaluation done on some of our services and some of our approaches on how we do stuff. And the evaluation team was done by the Centre for Mental Health based in London. And they found that when engaging with us and doing pre and post questionnaires, doing participation observation of some of the stuff that we were delivering, they came out with two things. There was many things that they said in the report, but these are the two I want to share with you that said they believed was making us different in terms of our approach and how we deliver things. The first one was around our use of relatable role models. Why am I sharing this with you? Because in anything that you're doing, any sphere, especially if you're thinking around engaging or navigating the terrain of race, you have to think about your staff demographics and are they relatable? Do they come from a similar background, race, culture, life experience of the people that you're trying to engage? So that could be stakeholder engagement internally or externally, depending on the organization or company you represent. Also, the evaluation team said that there was something about our ability to create psychologically and culturally informed spaces. And I was like, what do you mean when you say that? And they were saying, don't you realize, Nathan, that when you're doing training or you're doing an event, your use of music in the space, the food that you order. So we order a lot of Caribbean food, or if we're doing something that's mainly targeted for the Asian community, we'll be very specific around the menu choice. And they said that those little nuances in terms of how you create your environments when you're delivering your projects, or you're delivering program training, or whatever you're doing, actually makes a big difference in terms of the environments that you create and the spaces that you're creating. And that is something that, for those who are interested in improving their stakeholder engagement with different cultures, is some of these little things are very important in terms of creating dynamic learning environments. I want to just do some honor calls to Kofi Ann, just because it's Black History Month, who was the former Secretary General of the United Nations. Just want to salute you as it's Black History Month. I also want to salute Naomi Campbell, who was the first supermodel to be on the front page of the French magazine Vogue, and also on the Times magazine as well. So she's been doing some groundbreaking thing. Most people know her as a supermodel. She's also an actor and has done a lot of acting as well. I want to do an honor call and celebrate this young lady, Shirley Chisholm, I'm pronouncing her name right, who was actually the first person to be running for presidency in America. And this was in 1972. And in 2015, President Obama awarded her with a President Medal of Freedom. So I just want to salute you, Shirley, as it's Black History Month. And I couldn't go without saluting Mr. former 44th President of the United States, Mr. President or former President Obama, which was a massive thing. When that happened, I remember like, wow, it was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing on TV. Is this really happening? And yeah, he was our first ever Black president, the 44th Black president of the United States of America. So going into navigating the new terrain, I want to take you on a bit of a journey. And even though the theme is navigating the new terrain, for me, this terrain of Black Lives Matter is not actually new. And I'm going to show you that and share some thoughts around this terrain. So for many of us, people screaming, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. Also, there's been lots of debate and chatter on social media around hashtag Black Lives Matter. And then against that, there's been hashtags that have kind of tried to counter the Black Lives Matter hashtag with hashtag All Lives Matter. And then even recently, for those who use social media will be aware of this, we have hashtag Blue Lives Matter in terms of the lives of police officers. But what I want to talk about is some of the psychology, because what I think happens is that for many of us, we see pictures like this, but we don't understand how deep it goes and why Black people in particular get so angry or get so frustrated. So if we use the iceberg model, it probably can give us some clues and some thoughts around this and why this happens. So if you imagine all of us are on a Future Faces of Chambers ship, and we was all traveling towards this iceberg. At our human level, an iceberg would look humongous. Like we'd be like, oh my God, wow, that is amazing. But sometimes, and many times, we forget that an iceberg is sometimes 5, 10 times bigger, even 20 times bigger beneath the surface, the part of the iceberg that you actually can't see. It's actually one of the reasons why the Titanic sank. And I want to put this metaphor to you. When you're seeing stuff in the media and you're seeing conversations on social media around hashtag Black Lives Matter, you have to understand for Black people, this thing goes deeper than what you can see on the surface level. Because imagine if we take George Floyd's incident that was captured on like a phone. That is the kind of stuff that is at the top of the surface. That's the stuff that actually was caught on camera. I want to pose to you, imagine the stuff beneath the surface, the things that nobody sees. Some people in different walks of life call it microaggressions. The stuff that we can't actually put our finger on, but we know it's happening because we feel it. I want to put to you that psychologically for many Black people, especially when the George Floyd incident happened, myself included, I was very emotional. It hurt. It was I just couldn't believe that someone that was put in a position of authority, a police officer, would see that he's being filmed, have his hands in his pocket and press his knee down on his neck until the man was crying for his mom and killed him live on camera. And that causes, from a psychological perspective, feelings like anxiety, fear, anger, confusion, feeling of sad, feeling of hopelessness. Sometimes it can actually cause you to feel numb. I know for me personally, I made private decisions and public decisions where I said, I do not want to work with no company or no individual that does not publicly show me that my life matters as a Black male. And I remember with one of our partners, we do some work with the Birmingham Repertory Theatre, one of our partners through our charity, with one of our projects. And I remember going to the first partners meeting just after George Floyd had passed or was murdered or killed. And just before that meeting, they had published on their Twitter feed a statement to say that they're standing with Black lives and believe that Black lives are important. And I remember in this partnership meeting, it was on an online platform like a Zoom. And I remember getting emotional and I actually started to cry when I was thanking the executive director for putting out that statement. And I was trying to articulate how that felt for me to know that I was working with a company that believed and was actively showing me that my life mattered. So when we're thinking and we're seeing this stuff, sometimes we don't understand that psychologically it's much deeper beneath the surface. And obviously, if we had time, there was different pause points that will happen throughout this presentation. I want to show you this timeline. And please bear in mind, listeners, that I could put anything on this timeline and I could make it as long as you want it to be. But I was going to give you 4 dates. 1834, slavery. 1948, the Windrush. 1993, Stephen Lawrence was murdered. And in the independent report and review, found that actually the Met Police had institutional racism, which caused there to be a delay in convictions and securing convictions against Stephen Lawrence's killers. And then 2020, George Floyd. I'm just giving you this as a visual so that you understand, for those who are listening, that this terrain of Black Lives Matter goes back years. But I want to give you a bit more around the Windrush. So I'm a grandchild of grandparents who came to England on the Windrush. This was a picture of the actual ship. So my wife's mother was actually born in Jamaica and literally can tell you stories about being left behind in Jamaica while her parents came to England looking for a better future. What everyone needs to understand about the Windrush generation is that during this time, England was ruled by the Queen. It was the British Empire, and the Queen was seen as the head of state. And what would happen in English lessons all across the Caribbean, where people will be taught English lessons that's all about English history, and how England was portrayed in those lessons was England was the motherland, the place where the Queen lived. Actually, you know, I know this might sound crazy, but many people, my grandparents, believed that the streets were paved with gold and that when they come to Britain, there will be so much opportunities to better their life and move on in terms of social mobility, economic status, and be able to make money and then go back. If you speak to most grandparents of that generation, they never planned to stay because they thought they were going to come, work, and then go back to their place of origin, Jamaica, Barbados, wherever in the Caribbean. And as you can see in the pictures, the men dressed very sharp on that ship journey and the women dressed very sharp. But one of the things that they was hit with when they came off the ships and was trying to find accommodation with these signs: no Irish, no blacks, no dogs in the windows of most of the places that they tried to go and rent. Now I want you to think, if we was obviously in the training room, or if we had more time, I'd be stuck pausing and say to you, how do you feel if you know, now when we walk around, we're seeing all these signs like COVID signs saying, please wear your mask before you come in. Imagine if it said, no brown hair, no blue eyes, no white skin, or something like that. Imagine you go into an estate agent and the estate agent has a big poster saying, please, we're not renting to you, or you can't buy a house from us because of some type of difference. This is what my grandparents faced. My wife's mom, actually as a young girl, remembers seeing those signs in windows when she came here to England to live. So what I wanted to pose to you in terms of this terrain around race is, are you as an individual, a practitioner, professional, are you using the right methods and approaches in terms of dealing with race, having the conversations around race in your organization, in your companies? This image is a picture, for those who love their sports cars or know about cars, is an M4 BMW, very powerful. Flat surface, tarmac, traffic lights, 0 to 60, not a lot of cars can touch an M4 Bimmer. But if I told you that the terrain has changed and actually this BMW back-wheel drive is on a snowy terrain and is trying to go full throttle, what most likely happens, you've probably seen it on a snowy day, the nice prestige BMW with hazard lights on, struggling, while the little Fiat Panther drives past them. What happens is, because the terrain changes, this BMW, which is very nice, can't perform. It just literally goes around in circles. And a thought I want to put into your mind is, are you going around in circles? Do you look as a company, organization, as a professional, do you look like this BMW, very nice looking, inside the interior will be great, but actually when you're trying to move forward, you're just going around in circles, especially around this topic around race, diversity and equality? Are you using the right methods and approaches? Because ultimately for us at Legacy Consultants, it's about creating a future that's different for the next generation, helping companies connect and learn from the mistakes of the past so that the next generation can be connected and be a part of society, have the opportunities and the same opportunities as everyone else. For many, I know the conversation around race is sometimes an intellectual conversation, and you see stats and you see reports or you see news reports. But for real change to happen, we have to connect with your heart. If your heart's not pricked, even while you're listening to me, and I'm giving you just a taster of some of the stuff we talk about in the learning room, then we can't bring change, because ultimately we need the heart and mind together so that we can make real lasting behavioral change in companies, in organizations, in the system, in the policy. I want to share with you some thoughts around relatability and representation and why it matters. And I'm going to quickly show you a different, probably not related well to where all of you are from who are listening, but I'm going to use the Hollywood to try and demonstrate a point of why representation matters. So for some in this forum, in this webinar, this picture might mean nothing for you, but for me, it represents power. It represents a movie that was so inspirational, it's unbelievable to try and articulate. Maybe if I show you this slide and then explain to you that this is the Avengers cast before Black Panther was introduced into the Marvel universe. What do you see about this picture? Yep, you're right, all white. Now for Black people, from a Hollywood perspective, I'm just using this as a related world to try and think about your own companies and organizations and just the world at large. For Black people, they've grown up with Superman, white, Wonder Woman, white. Never have really grown up and seen themselves as a superhero or something that is strong and powerful. But when Black Panther movie came out, it was like the first real movie that came out where it was showing Black people as superheroes in a fictional Africa, Wakanda, that was advancing technology, that had finances, that were living together. There was love, there was unity, there was power, there was pride. And it literally set especially the Black community on fire. And I want to just give you some snapshots of like what was happening online. I just cried in the middle of the theater because I saw a little boy excitedly pointing excitedly at the Black Panther poster around, screaming, "He looks like me, he looks like me." Hashtag representation matters. President Obama, or she wasn't the president, she's the first lady, let me correct myself. tweeted, "Congrats to the entire Black Panther team. Because of you, young people will finally see superheroes that look like them on the big screen. I love this movie and know it will inspire people of all backgrounds to dig deep and find the courage to be heroes in their own stories." Why am I saying this to you? Why am I using Hollywood to talk about why representation matters? I want to go back to this image. If I was to come to your company, your organization, and I was just saying, show me your board, show me your senior leadership team, what would I see? Would I feel represented within your organization? Even when I look at your marketing, your branding, your website, what do I see when I look? Does it look like a place that I should work in or belong? Representation is a very important point. And obviously with time, we could have unpacked representation and how we can think about it within our own different industries and places of work or businesses that we represent this afternoon. I want to leave you with a few oh my God moments, like, wow, did this really happen? The first one is the most probably recent one. There's been others, so there's been the diversity dance on ITV. I've got slides for that, but I've reduced this down. But Joe Malone with John Bohaig, who basically co-designed the advert. And if you haven't read about it or seen it, basically he had an advert that was out there advertising the product. And then basically the company decided to not tell him, but reshoot the whole program using his ideas in China and actually take him out of the whole advert without telling him, because of their fears of believing that if they use the black actor, basically the product wouldn't sell in China. And they did this without even telling him. Then this Dove advert, and I want you all to think about, especially if those who are in marketing know, any kind of company, but if you're in marketing, you know that you guys, you know, to the where the logo's positioned, you know, critique things to the T. Now imagine that a film crew was hired, someone hired actors, someone done location, all this stuff, all the process that goes into creating an advert. And literally put our advert on TV of a black woman just about to use Dove body wash. And after using the body wash, she turns into a white lady. And this only got taken down when the black community went, oh my God, are you taking, you know, are you having a laugh? What I want you to think about, and what we could have done was unpack this, but this was just a taster for you, is think, how did this get signed off? How could they not see this was going to be a big issue? Because it actually went there, and it's only when people seen it, there's like, oh my God, Dove, are you really doing this? Another oh my God moment was this. A fashion company commissions a young child model and puts him in a black model, may I say, and puts him in a hoodie saying the coolest monkey in the jungle, and then puts it on their website, H&M, to try and sell, and only takes it down when, yet again, the black community is in uproar saying, are you having a giraffe? How are you putting a black child model in a hoodie with the words, the coolest monkey in the jungle? Do you not know the historical offensive terms and how black people was called monkeys historically over hundreds of years? But you've put that in. How did this get signed off? How did they miss it? I want you to be thinking about this for your own self and your own companies. Are the things that you are missing because you lack diversity at the decision-making table, at the signing off table? That's what we're trying to position ourselves as legacy consultants, to help you think things through. Another oh my God moment. And I promise you, this is not Photoshop. It would be better if it was, but I'm telling you it's not. I want you to read it. I'm going to read it to you, but I want you to read it. I'll read it to you now. Immigrants jump in the back, but only if you're good at sport. Paddy Power. I'm going to read it one more time. Immigrants jump in the back, but only if you're good at sport. Paddy Power. Now you tell me, How does something like this get signed off and people think this is okay? I want to give you 2 recommended reading. White Fragility. Why is it so hard for white people to talk about racism? And this book, Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. And then I want to leave you with our board game that we've developed to help expand this conversation around race and equality. And then we're going to open up for questions. Hello, it's Nathan Dennis here from Legacy Consultants. Hope you're well. I am so excited to introduce you to our games-based learning solution, the Equally Yours Legacy Edition. Now we know, since the tragic death of George Floyd in America, there's been a global conversation about race, diversity, and equality. Many organizations have been struggling and find it difficult to have those conversations around anti-race work or equalities and diversity work. But we've got a solution for you. The Equally Yours Legacy Edition board game. We call it a learning map, but for those who understand board games, it works just like a traditional board game, where you come into the learning space, we divide you into teams. Objective of the game is to navigate around the board and score as much points as possible, more points than your team. But what happens throughout the game is some very dynamic and powerful conversations. For example, if you landed on a gold space, you could potentially answer a question like this. Is it okay for black people to use the N-word? And imagine the facilitator then breaks you up into your groups to have about 3 to 4 minutes discussion around this question. Black people can't be racist. Discuss. Another example that could come up, all lives matter. Discuss. How would you deal with this in your organization? From L&D perspective, learning and development, or HR, it really is a dynamic learning tool. So if you want to learn more, please get in contact with us. Just by way of example, there's different other cards. So these are basically scenario-based questions. So what would you do? You could actually land on a gray space. For instance, you could land on this card and the card will come up and say, what does the word diversity mean? Discuss, give an example. For more information, please get in contact with us. All the information is at the bottom of the screen. My name's Nathan Dennis and I'm from Legacy Consultants. Look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care. So I'm coming down now, and I'm just going to finish so that we can have some question and answers. This was just a taster around how we can navigate the terrain or navigating the terrain of race and equality. And we're Legacy Consultants. We offer training. We facilitate honest conversations. We help you with your positive action and stakeholder engagement. Together, we can make a difference. That's my email, that's my Twitter, and that's my time going off if you can hear it in the background. So excellent. Over to you for questions. Thank you. So do we have any questions that are coming in? Please fire them away.
So yes, Nathan, we do have a couple questions coming. I'm not sure if you can see them at the bottom of your screen where it says Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got one from Denise Atkins who says, I like the idea of you serving culturally appropriate food at your training, but if it was an overwhelmingly white company doing that at their event to try and engage with black recruits, for example, would it be well received or viewed as appropriation, or at least inappropriate?
No, I don't think it will be. I'll give you an example. A bank recently moved into our city, Birmingham, recently, and done last year a Black History Month event. And the event was phenomenal, had a gospel choir, had steel pan performance, had some very motivational speeches. But when it came to the food element, they were serving carrot sticks and hummus. and they just lost it, like they absolutely lost it, compared to another Black History event that I went to around the corner with EY, who had meticulously planned the menu and had loads of delicacies from Africa and the Caribbean, and it was really well received. And that was actually the talking point of the event, was the food and how amazing the food was.
Awesome. We do have another question, which reads, do you think positive discrimination is actually helpful, and does it really promote equality?
Well, I think it does. I think it is helpful because I think at least it starts a conversation. So even though, so for instance, when you're talking about positive, can you be, where's the question, is that from Sophie? Can you give us an example in terms of like how you would define positive discrimination? So are you saying there's a valuable reason? Could you, I wish we could literally speak. See if, I'm going to see while she's waiting to just see if we can clarify that question. I'm going to see the other ones just because of time as well. Can you repeat the two recommendations? Denise, is that the book recommendations, I believe? White fragility, if it is, and why I no longer talk to white people about race. So I can share that screen if you want me to quickly. Just screenshot it if you can when I share it. Hopefully it's the books you're referring to in that question. We're going back to the discrimination question. Any discrimination is not acceptable. In an organization that doesn't get many, let me go back to the questions. Vanessa, you still there?
Yep, I'm still here. Another question, if you are unable to see. In an organisation that doesn't get many Black or minority applicants, how do you think we can counter that?
It's about doing a review. So we've just finished a focus group with the Ministry of Defence, and we was reviewing all of their marketing. And I find it fascinating how organizations don't see what we can see sometimes just by like visual lens. Like if you go on the website, there was nothing on the website that was saying, please come if you're from a diverse background. It was just like a whitewash with the stock images that were on the website. The organizational workforce structure was, all the senior leadership was white. What else was it that was interesting? Even some of the language that they were using in the job application. I think like you have to like get companies in to like review all your processes, and also do you do in terms of your recruitment process blind recruitment in terms of removing the names, removing the ethnicity of the individuals of the application forms, because there is research that suggests that just by a person's name discrimination actually happens. So I know, for instance, HS2 are doing a lot of blind recruitment, and they've seen an increase in their BAME. They use the word, I don't like the word, but they've seen an increase in their BAME applicants and people that are getting through.
Okay, we've got another question saying, hi Nathan, thank you so much for the presentation. What is the most memorable success story you could share with us regarding the support your company has provided?
Memorable. I think everything that we do, every company that we get to work with is just like phenomenal. So like the Ministry of Defence stuff that we're literally just finishing up, what we're about to do some new stuff. I think it's just phenomenal getting the feedback. And when you get, like we use SurveyMonkey to get feedback, and it's just the eye-opening moments when people are like, oh my God, it's the moments on the presentation. So if we had time and we're actually live and we can hear everyone's feedback, it's actually hearing people's live feedback on some of the points, because you'll find that even when you do the timeline, people don't realize that Black Lives Matter goes back so deep in terms of the emotional and psychological impact and feeling. So that's something that we're proud about. When we've done work with Royal Shakespeare Theatre Company, and we literally improved their strategic audience development with engaging with the Black and Caribbean community and Asian community, to change their demographics in their theatre, and then train staff front of house in terms of how to engage. I know this sounds crazy, but quick story. I know times, actually we don't have the time, so I can't even give you the story, but I believe on our website, that case study is on there.
Okay, and lastly, just going back to the positive discrimination question, the example used was, for instance, hiring a black candidate over a white one in a job interview where both of them are head to head. If that makes sense.
I think you can help, you know, but I do believe that people should be recruited based on their merit, not just for the color of their skin. So even in the legacy edition, I think I haven't got it to hand, but there's a question that comes up in the game. I can't see if I can find it quick, but it gives you a scenario about what do you do if you have two candidates that are exactly the same, identical on page in terms of qualification, experience, in terms of positive action, who would you recruit? But if you've got a low BAME quota, it's quite obvious who you should be recruiting, because you're trying to improve your percentages if they was identical. So I think there is an argument for it that you should do it to reduce, because it's not acceptable. I don't know for those who been in the news, but you know, the Commonwealth Games have been in the press recently around this type of stuff in terms of being called out around the lack of diversity at the executive team level. And yeah, I think that we have to do something, and it has to be radical, because it has to be a radical change. But I think before we just do tokenistic things, I'm not saying that positive action is tokenistic, we have to understand and try and unpack the psychology. Is it unconscious bias that is happening within the organization? Why there's no diversity in the first place?
Fabulous. Thanks for all the questions. So I do want to thank you again. So just checking just want to thank you again for jumping on this call, Nathan, and giving us this little taster of the training. If what I will do following this event is I'll send out an email to everyone that attended, just with your details, so that if they were interested in any training, they can contact you directly. And then again, we have lots of different events on our event page. So if there is anything else that people find interest in, then please book onto our events.
And just a last one, I've put into the chat a link to our survey. So please, please, please just fill it out. And especially the last section where we're asking for your comments and feedback. Yeah, give us some feedback, give us some comments. Please, please, please. Feedback is the breakfast of champions.
Fabulous. So thank you again, and see you all soon.
Take care.